5 weeks earlier, the hum of P6 headquarters was low and steady, broken only by the faint shadow of officers cycling in from shifts. Marla Jansen leaned against her console, pretending not to notice Sergeant Neumann hovering nearby. He wasn't subtle, though, his uniform still crisp from the day's inspection. His voice carried the same gruff confidence when he finally asked her out for a drink after shift. Marla smirked, but before she could answer, her monitor pulsed with an incoming field feed. The audio was crackled, grainy, but image was still clear. Jen Barrow's excavation team, their suits lit by flood lamps, standing before something half buried in rock. Marla's smile vanished. Neumann, you might want to see this." She patched the feed to the lounge display. Within seconds, Neumann, Cortez, and Commander James were gathered, staring in silence at the structure on the screen. It rose from the stone like a twisted monument. A double-helix tower, scored with symbols that bled red, even in the poor light. Is that? Cortez's voice caught, tapped her earpiece, calling Barrow directly. "Jen, is that what I think it is?" Vera's reply came with a nervous laugh. "Depends how fucked up your thoughts are, Vera." Neumann frowned, arms crossing. "Alright, someone explain it to me. What the hell am I looking at?" Cortez swallowed hard. "It's a marker." The war hung in the air like a curse. Neumann blinked. "Marker? What, like Unitology marker?" He turned sharply to her. "Wait, you're serious? You're telling me this is one of those things you people worship?" For the first time since he partnered with her, Cortez didn't deny it. She didn't look away. "You're a Unitologist?" Neumann's tone dripped with disdain. "A marker head? You've been riding beside me the whole time and you never said a damn word?" Cortez bristled. "Because my religion has nothing to do with the job. It never has. And it sure as hell does now," Neumann snapped. "Enough." Commander James' voice cut like a blade. He stepped between them before the argument could boil over. "Both of you save it. Barrow's team will need an escort back from the dig site. That's your assignment. Suit up." Still seething, Neumann stormed toward the airlock with Cortez at his side. The silence between them was heavier than the colony's steel walls. Finally, he turned to her. "Why didn't you tell me?" he demanded. "Why the hell didn't you tell me you were one of them?" Cortez met his gaze with calm defiance. "Because it doesn't matter. Because I still believe in something bigger than us, and still do my job. Because it wasn't your business." She hesitated and added quietly, But I think it's about to become everyone's business." Neumann's jaw tightened as the airlock opened. The marker loomed in his thoughts like a shadow he couldn't shake. The cavernous hum of oxygen filter Bay 5 echoed like a slumbering beast. Supervisor Natalie crouched beneath a tangle of pipes, sweat streaking down her brow as she tightened the last bolts on the new compressor. Her hands were slick with coolant, but the work was nearly finished. She thumbed the comm switch at her collar. "Cooper, compressor's in. Just another minute." Static crackled back, a distorted voice buried in white noise. "Copy, out, Mills." She frowned, twisting the dial. "Say again, Jerry? You're breaking up." The hiss dissolved into silence, then a sharp pop of interference that made her wince and press the earpiece tighter. "Damn comms," she murmured. A moment later, Cooper's voice returned on a clearer frequency. "Power's waiting on your call, Nat. Just say the word." Natalie exhaled, leaning back against the steel paneling. "Alright, give me a 10 down before you bring it online." "You got it. 10, 9. She packed her wrenches into the faded leather tool bag at her feet and stood, brushing dust off her knees. The heavy doors of Bay 5 hissed, warning that the cycle would soon lock down. 7, 6. Natalie froze. The bag wasn't at her feet anymore. Her eyes darted to the far end of the chamber, where the satchel lay forgotten beside the scaffolding. She must have left it while swapping fittings. Shit. 5, 4. She sprinted across the gated floor, boots clanging, lungs burning. "Aboard, Cherry. Hold the count." Her voice cracked with urgency, but the static swallowed her plea. 3. The bulkhead doors began to grind together with mechanical finality. Natalie snatched the bag, turned and hurled herself towards the narrowing gap. 2. Her path was cut off. The closing seemed just inches too small. In desperation, she shoved the tool bag into the crack. Sparks danced as the metal teeth ground against the leather. 1. The bay roared to life. The colossal fan behind her spun up with a deafening shriek, pulling the air into a violent spiral. Natalie's feet lifted, dragged toward the churning blades. Her fingers clawed at the door frame, nails splitting, every muscle screaming. The pull was relentless. The sound of the fan, a thunderous death sentence. With one final surge, she wedged her shoulder into the seam, tearing herself through just as the door slammed shut. The tool bag was crushed instantly, ripped apart between the steel slabs. Natalie collapsed against the door, chest heaving, hair plastered to her head's slick face. For a long moment she just sat there, ears ringing, listening to her pulse throb in her skull. When her breath finally steadied, she gave a bitter laugh and murmured, "Those fools were worth a fortune." The fan roared on the other side of the bulkhead, uncaring, as if it had never almost eaten her alive. The soft murmur of the lounge area 3 was a welcome change from the endless buzz, a peace that calms. Sergeant Neumann sat back in his chair, savoring the rare moment of silence. A plate of half-eaten rations in front of him. Across the table, Vera Cortez sipped from a steaming cup, her eyes tired but calm. Around them, miners filled the room with rough voices and the scrape of boots against metal flooring. For a while, the conversations blended into the background, until a heated exchange rose above the din. "I'm telling you, it's just a rock," one woman snapped, slamming her mug down. Her jumpsuit bore the dust of a dig team, her knuckles still raw from work. "We had the excavation prepped. We were ready, and now we're shut down because some bigwid's scared of scratches in the stone? It's bullshit." Across from her, another miner leaned forward, eyes bright with something feverish. A small Unitology pendant dangled from his neck. "That's not just a rock, that's the marker. It's proof. The next step in human evolution. Life beyond death." His voice trembled, half with reverence, half with anger. "We're standing at the threshold of eternity, and you're too blind to see it?" The woman barked a laugh. "Eternity? You're worshipping graffiti on a fossil. You and your whole church are a pack of lunatics." The words were barely out before the Unitologist lunged across the table, plates and cups clattering to the floor as fists met flesh. Neumann was already on his feet, grabbing the Unitologist by the collar and yanking him back. Cortez caught the other miner, holding her arms as she struggled to swing again. "Enough!" Neumann shoved the believer against the wall. "You want to spend the rest of the week in the break? Keep swinging." The miner spat blood and glared, but didn't resist. Neumann tapped his comm. "Marla, I got a disturbance in Lounge 3. 2 miners brawling, requesting pickup." Static answered him. He tried again. Nothing. "Figures." Neumann let the Unitologist go with a shove. "Fine, you're both lucky. Next time, I'm dragging you down myself." 2 miners slunk back to the corners, muttering curses under their breath. Neumann brushed his hands off as he returned to the table. Cortez sat down with him, her expression thoughtful. "You know," she began carefully, "he did have a point. If it really is a marker, it could change everything." Neumann stabbed a fork into his food, jaws tightening. He lost his point the second he threw a punch. He leaned back, eyes narrowing at the Unitologist across the room. "And your fellow believers? They're fucking nuts." Cortez didn't answer right away. He just stared into her cup, the steam rising between them, their sounds heavier than the fight they'd just broken up. The medical office was quiet, save for the faint hum of air scrubbers. Dr. Tobbs Cario sat across an tired-looking miner, his tablet resting on one knee. The man's eyes were bloodshot, lids twisting as though sleep had become a stranger he could no longer recognize. He rubbed at his temples as he spoke. "I can't sleep, Doc. It's been days. Every time I close my eyes, something keeps me awake. I can't explain it. I'm exhausted, but my head, it just won't shut off." The doctor studied him with a practical calm. though the man's desperation was obvious. Insomnia is common in work colonies. Long shifts, high stress, no real sky. I'd say it's probably depression, maybe even burnout. I know a lot of you were hoping for a major strike, something historic. Ishimura showing up kind of stole that thunder. The miner's hand curled into fists. It's not that. I don't care about the Ishimura. This isn't disappointed, Doctor. It's something else. I can't explain it, but it isn't in my head. Takario frowned. He heard the same protest a dozen times already. Still, procedure was procedure. He scribbled onto his tablet, then tore off his script from the printer beside him. Here, he said, sliding the slip across the desk. Mild sedatives. Take them before bed. It should take the edge off until you can regulate naturally. The miner hesitated, then took the slip with a muttered thanks, leaving the office with a slow, shuffling gait. As the door shut behind him, Katie, the nurse on duty, leaned against the counter. Her brow was frowned, her voice low. That makes 20 in the past 3 days, all of them minors, all with the same story. Scario set his tablet down, rubbing the bridge of his nose. I know. Depression's one thing, but 20 cases of insomnia? That's unusual. He sighed, stared at the closed door. Something strange is going on here, Katie. I just don't know what. The hum of the air scrubbers filled the silence again. Louder now, as though the colony itself was listening. Union Square was alive with voices that afternoon. The most carried a sharp undercurrent of unease. The open space, normally filled with vendors and miners on their breaks, had drawn a different kind of crowd. Clusters of Unitologists, their pennants gleaming in the artificial light. At the center of it stood Deacon Abbott, BTM engineer, first class, his voice raised in fervor as he preached. And now, brothers and sisters, it has been 200 years since the first marker was revealed to us by Michael Altman, Abbott declared, arms stretched wide. 2 centuries since the truth was buried under the lies of EarthGov. And now, on this world, what do we find? Another marker. A gift. A confirmation of everything Unitology has ever thought. Cortez shifted uncontrollably in the crowd, trying to remain unnoticed. Neumann, standing beside her, folded his arms and shook his head. God damn it, he muttered under his breath. Not this again. Cortez shot a warning glance. Don't. But Neumann was already speaking up, his voice cutting across Abbott's sermon. Yeah, real convincing. Except the first marker was black, this one's red. So which is it, Albert? Or are you just another fringe nutjob trying to sell fairy tales to scared miners? The crowd gasped at the insult. Abbott smiled and faltered, but his eyes burned as he turned towards Neumann. Sergeant Neumann, isn't it? Still blind after all this time. The color is irrelevant. The form is what matters. It is a marker, and its discovery proves that Altman was right. The Unitology is right. Neumann snorted. Right? The only thing you're right about is how gullible people can be. And you think this thing is some path to eternal life? It's a rock with scribbles. Your faith is crap. Cortez flinched at the words, anger flashing in her eyes. You're doing exactly what that woman did in the lounge. Mocking, belittling, you know better, Abraham. Her voice carried, and Abbott overheard. His smile widened into something triumphant. Hear that? Even your partner sees the truth. If anyone here is a fringe nutjob, Sergeant, it's you. Newman's jaws clenched. He shoved his way out of the crowd, fury in his stride. There's no such thing as a marker, he snapped. Loud enough for all to hear. We already conquered heaven, and you know what we found? Nothing. God wasn't home. The words hung in the air like a curse. Albert raised a finger at him, voice booming with conviction. That's because your God doesn't exist, Sergeant. But ours? Our God is very much in residence. Cortez stood frozen, caught between the two worlds. Her partner's scorn and her fellow believer's certainty. The noise of Union Square swelled around her, but all she could hear was the echo of Newman's footsteps as he stormed away. The wind howled through the barren plain. carrying with it a fine grit that clung to every seam of a suit. At the edge of the excavation pit, the marker loomed. An alien monument, red glimpse pulsing faintly like veins beneath stone. Floodlights cast long shadows across its jagged helix, and the ground seemed to hum in its presence. Natalie Deshanov adjusted her helmet and looked back at her squad. 4 PSEC officers milled around near the perimeter fencing. Their rifles slung low, their expressions cupped somewhere between boredom and unease. "This is a joke," murmured one of them, kicking at the dirt. "We're babysitting a rock while half the colony's turning on each other. Could have pulled tower duty, but no, we get stuck out here." "Yeah," another added, shifting his weight. "Oh, for some unitology fairy tale. Should have left the damn thing buried." Natalie raised a hand, silencing the grumbling. "Enough. Orders are orders. Cartesia wants this site locked down, and that means we're the ones standing between this thing and anyone stupid enough to get too close." She turned towards the marker, its sheer scale dwarfing them all. For a moment she just stared, the symbols riding in the harsh light, her throat tightening, though she pushed the feeling down. "Look," she said softer now, "I don't buy into this whole unitology gospel, but you can't just stand here and tell me this isn't incredible. We're looking at something older than anything we've touched. Cartesia wants it protected. That's what we're here for." Their squad traded uneasy glances. None argued, but none looked entirely convincing either. The marker loomed behind them, silent and patient, as if it were listening. Natalie tore her eyes away first, forcing herself to sound firm. "Keep your perimeter checks tight. No one comes near this thing unless command clears it. That's the job. Do it." The men dispersed, their mummers lost in the wind. Natalie stayed a moment longer, staring at the scarlet symbols that seemed to breed with their own rhythm. She swallowed hard and turned away. The call came in sharp and panicked. "Assault in progress, Surgery 1, West Sector 9, Level 5. Neumann and Cortez arrived to chaos. The automatic doors hissed open to reveal overturned carts, jars of glass scattered across the sterile floor, and a smell of ozone thick in the air. Somewhere deeper inside, a voice raved, cracked and raw. "Don't understand. I can't shut it out. Every night it's there, whispering, scratching the inside of my skull." They found Nurse Katie, crouched behind the desk, trembling, eyes wide with terror. She lifted a trembling finger towards the operating theater. "It's him, the miner," she whispered. "The one from before. He got Dr. Sherrill." Through the observation window, Neumann saw the scene unfold. The miner, pale and gout, gripping a laser cutter like a weapon. Its beam cast jagged lines of light across the surgical bay. As he pressed the emitter dangerously close to Saccarello's chest, the doctor's face was frozen in shock, sweat running down his brow. Neumann raised a hand, motioning Cortez to stay low as he stepped into view. His voice was steady, authoritative. "Easy now. Put it down. Nobody's here to hurt you. Let the doctor go and we'll get you some help." The miner's eyes were bloodshot, darting around wildly. He shook his head, pressing the cutter closer. "Help? You think pills will help? I see them when I close my eyes. Faces in the dark, whispering in a language I don't know but understand. They don't want me to sleep, Sergeant. They want me to watch." Neumann took a careful step forward, palms out. "You don't need to do this. Lower the tool. We can..." The miner screamed and squeezed the trigger. The beam slashed across the wall, sending sparks flying. Instruments and monitors exploded in showers of glass and smoke. "Drop it!" Cortez roared. Her pistol barked once, the round striking the miner's shoulder. He staggered, screaming in pain. Before he could recover, Cortez slammed into him, tackling him to the ground. The cutter skidded across the floor, sizzling as it powered down. Neumann rushed to the doctor, pulling him to safety. "You all right?" The doctor nodded weakly, clutching his chest. I think so." Then Neumann froze, his eyes shifted past the door, to the desk where Katie had been hiding. The world seemed to tilt. Her body lay sprawled, glass and blood pooling beneath her. The wild arc of the laser cutter had caught her mid-scream. carving her cleanly in half across the torso. Her lifeless eyes stared upward, unblinking. Newman's stomach turned to stone. Behind him, Cortez wrestled the miner into restraints, her face grim. The echoes of his raving still rang in the room. But to Neumann, all he could hear was a silence where Katie's voice should have been. Hanford Cartesia's office was lit by muted glow of the colony's artificial daylight cycle. Desks scattered with reports he had no patience to read. The only thing that mattered flickered before him on the hollow screen. The face of Benjamin Mathias, EarthCom liaison aboard USG Ishimura. "Manager Cartesia," Mathias said, his tone clipped, formal. "I've just received word from a higher authority." Cartesia leaned forward, the faint Unitologist pendant at his throat, glinting in the glow. "Higher than the government?" His lips curved into a knowing smile. "The church, then?" Dias didn't confirm, but he didn't deny either. His silence was an answer of its own. "The marker you've uncovered must be protected at all costs, until the Ishimura arrives." Dias continued. "That is your sole priority." Cartesia's eyes gleamed with satisfaction. "So it's confirmed, then. It is a marker." He exhaled, as though a weight has been lifted. "At last, the truth revealed. And under my stewardship. I'll see to it that it's safe, Benjamin. More than that, I've already begun preparations to bring it into the colony itself. Imagine the possibilities." For the first time, Mathias' expression flickered. He hesitated, then asked, almost cautiously, "Have there been any accidents? Unusual incidents among the colonists?" The question gave Cartesia pause. "Accidents? Well," he folded his hands, thinking. "There was that nurse Katie, killed in a tragic misunderstanding with one of the miners." His brow frowned. "Why do you ask?" Mathias didn't answer. He looked away for the briefest moment. Then to Cartesia with a cold, steady gaze. "Your orders remain the same. Protect the marker. Nothing else matters." Cartesia shifted uncomfortably, but tried to keep his voice even. "The marker is miles away from the colony, Benjamin. Surrounded by security. It's in no danger." Mathias' eyes narrowed, his voice flat and final. "See that it stays that way." The screen winked out, leaving Cartesia staring at his own reflection in the black glass. The night was thin and cold on the plain. The moon shuddered as it broke to the surface near dig site GL-426. Its hatch grinding open to spill Deacon Abbott and three of his fellow believers onto the dust. Floodlights bathed the pit in a pale glow, and there it was, the marker, towering above them like a jagged relic of some forgotten god. Even at a distance, the red symbols pulsed faintly, alive with the rhythm no human hand had carved. Abbott's companions lingered at the rim, whispering prayers and warnings. "We shouldn't be here," one of them murmured. "PSEC patrols this place. If they catch us..." Abbott raised a hand, silencing him. His eyes burned with conviction. "They can't keep us from our salvation. 2 centuries of lies and cover-ups, and now the truth stands before us." He stepped forward, boots crunching in the gravel. "This is a gift," Altman promised. The others shifted nervously as Abbott approached the base of the marker. Its surface loomed higher with every step. It glimpsed twisted into shapes that seemed to change when he wasn't looking. "Don't touch it," one of his companions hissed. Abbott ignored him. Defiance and reverence mingled in equal measure. He pressed his palm against the cold, rigid stone. For an instant, nothing happened. Then his breath caught. The world dropped away. He was standing in a place without walls or air, filled with crimson light that pulsed like a heartbeat. And before him, his mother. Her face exactly as he remembered it. Eyes warm, smile soft. She reached for him, and her voice filled his skull like a hymn. Deacon, you were right. Their marker is salvation. Proof of eternity. Life beyond death. His throat tightened, tears stinging his eyes. Mother, is that really you? Protect it, she whispered, her voice steadily sharp, urgent. Her fingers tightening on his hand. Do not let them take it. It belongs to us. To you. The light flared, and Abbott staggered backward. The cold night rushing back in as he tore his hand from the marker. His companions caught him before he fell. Their faces pale. Deacon, what did you see? One of them asked, frightened. Abbott's eyes were wide, shining with a fanatic glow. He laughed breathlessly, gazing up at the looming monument. I saw the other side, he whispered, and it was glorious. The marker pulsed behind him, silent, patient, alive.